DJI's Amflow PL is pound for pound the most powerful e-mountain bike. A recent firmware update unlocked 1,000 watts entirely at the user's discretion. And it was a bold move, because for years, motor makers like Bosch, Yamaha, and Bros have stuck to an unspoken convention: keep it under 750 watts. And now DJI, an outsider, is poking at the beehive.
How's it going?
Today, I'll explain why this move could at best shake things up, and at worst, ruin e-bike access for everyone. Hear me out, I'm not here to hate on this bike or the freedom to ride whatever you want. I hate rules, regulations, and especially dumb laws. So, if we want to avoid that, you'll want to understand exactly what just happened. I'm Seth from Burn Peak, and a bunch of people are gonna hate me again. Yo! Let's start with the Amflow PL, which has been reviewed by now countless times. I'll give you the diet version. First of all, Amflow is a brand created by DJI, the drone and camera company, to bring their Avinox motor to market. Several mountain bike companies, including Forbidden, have already adopted this motor along with its electronics package. Bike reviewers, by and large, seem to agree that the Avinox motor is astonishing and that the torque sensing, the electronics, and the app are up there with the very best. None of this should be surprising. DJI has deep experience with motors, sensors, and software. Designing an e-bike powertrain is well within their capabilities. As for the actual bike, it's pretty nice, though I do have some gripes, like the lack of a size small, or that this size medium apparently doesn't clear a water bottle. That's not ideal, and on the one that I got here, there's a fair bit of cable rattle, which I will fix with a foam sleeve when I get around to it. This is Amflow's first bike, and aside from those issues, it's impressively polished. At first glance, you might not realize it's an e-bike. It's lighter than most eMTBs, and pound for pound, the most powerful. But it's how they let you use that power that has everybody talking. See, these menus let you adjust anything you want. You can make this a 250 watt class 1 e-bike, like would be street legal in Europe, or a 1,000 watt 28 mile per hour beast that would only be legal in Florida. They even include with it everything you would need to get it registered, save for a license plate holder. So DJI has left it up to its users to comply with regulations in their localities and trail systems. But if I were a betting man, I'd put my money on everybody running this wide open at full power on every setting. And you're about to see why. Okay, we're in eco mode now. 200 watts, 50 Newton meters. Okay, I can notice it a little bit. It kind of just offsets the weight of the e-bike. Noticeable whirring sound. I'm about to bump it up to trail mode, and I should feel a huge surge because it goes from 200 watts and 50 Newton meters to 105 Newton meters and 750 watts. Okay. Oh, this is already more powerful than any e-bike I've ever ridden. I mean, it just feels like, honestly, it feels like I'm doing nothing. It says it's 105 Newton meters, which other e-bikes have. It feels like a lot more assist. Okay, now I'm gonna change it to turbo mode, and I'm not really sure what difference I'm gonna feel because it's the same 105 Newton meters of torque. A huge difference. Oh my goodness. It's the same amount of torque, and I feel it hitting the 20 mile per hour limit when it hits 20 miles per hour, which it does very easily and quickly. There is a speed limit, 20 miles an hour, and we can set it to 28, thereby making this a class 3 e-bike. Oh my goodness. And this is steep right here. I mean, on a flat turn, it's way faster than I could ever. What the? Like, this is beyond assist now. It's not assisting you. You're not even assisting it. It is impressive. It's insane. Okay, we got one more, and we're on the steepest part. You hold this button on the top, and it puts you into boost mode. This is crazy. I'm like, if you knew how steep that was. Nuts. Today we're at Canoga, which is a private bike park on private land. We can ride this just fine. But as soon as we try to cross the road and the tires touch that pavement, everything changes. Set up like it is right now with everything maxed out, I could technically get a ticket for crossing the road into the bike park. No problem, we'll detune it down to 750 watts and now it's a class 3 e-bike, totally legal on any road in North Carolina. But actually, there's still one thing missing. See, as it turns out, the sticker is really important. It's a key part of the law, at least in most places in the United States. You have to put a sticker on your e-bike that says what wattage it's set to and what the top speed is and the classification. In this case, class 3, 750 watts, 28 miles per hour. And then if I were to set it lower to go on the bikeway and I still had the sticker on it, actually it's mislabeled at that point. Your label has to match the wattage and speed and classification of your bike. You could technically get a citation. There, that looks awesome. And we are now in compliance for the entire time I am crossing that road, if I don't ever change the settings. And so if you actually want to change the settings on this and go between private bike parks and public trail systems and roads and use the bike legally to the fullest extent, you would have to print out a whole bunch of stickers and bring them with you and physically peel them off the bike and add and remove them. It's supposed to be permanently affixed to your bike. The law says so. Now, is that what people are going to do in practice? No, of course not. That's ridiculous. But I looked at the law very carefully, and that appears to be what it says in most jurisdictions in the United States. The only sticker that they include in the box is this class 3 250 watt 28 mile per hour sticker. This would not even be legal in Europe, and then in the United States you can't set it to 250 watts, and so I don't know what this sticker is for, but you can go on Etsy and get whole bunches of e-bike stickers, and I guess you could ride this legally if you keep changing the sticker and then changing the setting. Now, so that I'm not being unfair here, here's what some people are saying. I don't know what DJI's official stance is, but if you hold this button down, it goes into boost mode, and that's supposed to give you the full wattage of the bike, and it only lasts for 60 seconds. And so the argument is, no, that's not the nominal power, that's momentary power. It's 1,000 watts. And it gets even more confusing when you see the other things they include with the bike. They include a bell, a headlight, a tail light, orange side markers. It's almost as if they know you might have to register it as a moped, but then at the same time, it's kind of implied that it's legal. And so is DJI doing anything illegal here? No, absolutely not. You can create a bike that's 6,000 watts and take it someplace where bikes that are 6,000 watts are legal. In this case, they're putting it in your hands. It's up to you to use this legally. Now, e-bike and e-mountain bike laws vary from state to state, and they vary even more when you go down to the level of a trail system. But for the most part, in the United States, trail systems allow Class 1 e-bikes. That means it has a motor that's rated nominally at 750 watts or less, and it is limited to 20 miles per hour, pedal assist only. And so, what's the problem? You can basically set this to that and apply a sticker to it. Why would it ruin things for everyone? And I'm all for personal responsibility. What do I care if some guy does it wrong and then gets a citation because he didn't put the right sticker on his e-bike? Well, consider this hypothetical scenario. You visit Auburn State Recreation Area in California, which allows Class 1 e-bikes. Your Amflow is configured and labeled as Class 1. You're in the clear. But you notice some guy by the trailhead accelerating abnormally fast on his Amflow, and Ranger Joe, a stickler if there ever was one, is not impressed. So he stops this individual, who in turn gestures to his Class 1 sticker, indicating it's below 750 watts and limited to 20 miles per hour. But Ranger Joe is not impressed, and in fact, he writes the user a citation. It reads, California Vehicle Code 24016D observed rapid acceleration and performance inconsistent with Class 1 limits. Observed capability exceeded limits for labeled class. So in other words, Ranger Joe issues a citation for mislabeling the bike. What happens next? Well, it's very likely that nothing happens. It's hard to prove what power an e-bike is, and there's no vehicle code or park regulation to my knowledge that gives the ranger blanket authority to review your e-bike setting or dyno test it. So laws about mislabeling e-bikes are at best difficult to uphold, and at worst, impossible. And so what do authorities do when they find that their laws are unenforceable? Well, they enact blunt, heavy-handed laws that are easy to enforce.
We're going to lower the speed limit to 15 miles an hour because that's what safety is all about.
Just have a look at New York City. Unregistered 40-mile-per-hour mopeds have taken over the bike lanes, and they're already prohibited under existing laws. Except they found those laws were nearly impossible to uphold, so they're enacting a 15-mile-per-hour citywide speed limit for all e-bikes. So as a result, law-abiding cyclists on Class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes face new restrictions to stop a problem they had very little to do with, if anything. Apparently, delivery guys on modded e-bikes ruined it for everyone. And now we have DJI to thank for starting an arms race. It's only a matter of time before other manufacturers remove their regional locks to compete with Avinox. And so, we'll see the proliferation of technology just like this from other manufacturers. Even if 99 out of 100 people act responsibly, the bad eggs could make e-bike adoption less appealing for other trail users who all have their say. And if it really becomes an issue, we can expect blanket restrictions that could affect all bikes, or at least all e-bikes. Can we stop for a moment to consider the irony of all this? DJI created the consumer drone market by any definition, and in the mid-2000s, the FAA had virtually nothing on the books regarding these aircraft. It was the Wild West. Yet, DJI self-imposed restrictions on its own products, like no-fly zones and altitude limits, just like Bosch, Bros, Yamaha, and other motor makers have been doing with e-bike powertrains since the beginning. And it's been quite effective until now. And I, for one, would much rather reasonable, self-imposed limits than blunt, imprecise ones handed down from authority. So it's kind of ironic that a decade ago, DJI was on the receiving end of this. Was 750 watts not a reasonable number to stick to? Now, like many of you, I agree that 750 watts sounds like a pretty arbitrary number. The reason motor makers chose it was only for congruence with US e-bike classification. For heavy riders, cargo bikes, and other applications, 750 watts might be just enough, whereas a featherweight rider could do donuts with that much power. As for speed, it's still limited, at least it is in Europe, to 25 kilometers per hour, which translates to about 16 miles per hour. But here in the States, you can switch this to Class 3 mode, which assists up to 28 miles per hour or 45 kilometers per hour. While that's legal on most US roads, it's almost never allowed on trails. But now, Specialized is allowing users to access the same settings. So you can see how this is already moving towards an industry-wide trend. I know what you're gonna say, but Seth, any car can break the speed limit, yet it's more common to see people going too slow in the passing lane. You could commit a crime with anything. I could murder someone with a gravel bike given enough time and effort. And to those worried about tread, it's pretty obvious that brakes do more damage to trails than even a 1,000-watt motor. You see, I agree with all of these statements, but that doesn't change the possible course of events. We've seen this with slingshots, personal watercraft, fireworks, quads, lawn darts, and pretty much everything fun. Everything's fine until it's not. The moment we see widespread misuse, it gets ruined for everyone. So, more irony incoming. As a supporter of personal choice and personal freedom, I think the better path is self-regulation than regulation handed down from authority. And in an effort to hold on to market share, we can only expect to see more bike companies and motor makers leaving it up to the users to comply with the law, ceding the burden of self-regulation to their customers. So it's on us now, not Big Motor. We need to self-regulate. What might that even look like? Well, for starters, if someone is kicking up dust, blowing past families at 28 miles per hour in a state park, they need to be chastised. Not by the family, but by mountain bikers, by their own. We need to make the social cost of ruining it for everyone too high to bear. Some may use the information in this video to mislabel their bikes unencumbered, but others may realize the grave implications of drawing attention to themselves. Nobody wants to be that guy who ruined it for everyone. So when you see something, say something. Like, dude, I have an Avinox motor too, it's cool, but you're in a state park and need to slow down. Social pressure can go a long way. But what we can do and what will likely happen are two different things. So what do I really think is going to happen? Let's point this thing downhill and then I'll give you my best guess. So for a full power e-bike, this is pretty light, but it's still heavier than I would prefer. I like my bikes light, you know, like an analog bike. But given the technology in this motor, seems like DJI could have made it much smaller. Put half the battery in here, which would still be bigger than many light e-bikes, and they could have made the lightest e-bike in the world. But they didn't. They tried to balance power and range and lightness, which is what people want. So they did their market research. They weren't building a bike for me. They were building a bike that e-bike enthusiasts really like. So what is likely to happen? Well, with a regional lock of 25 kilometers per hour in Europe, your guess is as good as mine. As far as I know, trail access is not as contentious there. Here in the USA, we enjoy a confusing hodgepodge of private, federal, state, and local land, all with different laws, regulations, and levels of local drama. My guess is that the more highly trafficked an area, the more we could see friction and new rules. Here in Western North Carolina, eMTBs are prohibited on most trails, save for those on private land. There are currently advocates trying to get them adopted in certain trail systems, and their jobs could potentially get more difficult. Nobody has a crystal ball. We can only look to other examples like New York City and try to learn from those mistakes. But the problem in New York City had a catalyst, the economic incentive of bypassing vehicular traffic. And though our trail systems are rarely used as commercial food delivery routes, any blanket restrictions handed down from authority, no matter how small, are worth exercising caution to avoid. Now, putting all these potential issues aside, this technology is still impressive. With all that efficiency, I would love to see a miniature version of the Avinox motor on a lower capacity, detuned, super lightweight e-bike. Wouldn't that be awesome? Well, maybe to me and like 3 other people, but that doesn't seem to be where the e-mountain bike market is headed. The majority of buyers, it seems, love lightweight e-bikes, just not at the expense of power or range. This is lighter than anything even close to its class, and it's got a ton of power and range. It's exactly what most buyers want. I timed myself on that fire road for reference, and in doing so, blew past other e-bikers on 55-pound full power machines. Mind you, I was pedaling as hard as I could, but in the end, I got to the top in 3 minutes and 30 seconds, a minute faster than my previous record. Now, one thing I noticed while climbing that fire road trying to beat my time was that it wasn't particularly pleasant. Pointed upwards, weighted on the rear wheel with all that torque, I experienced massive understeer and struggled to maintain control as I remained seated, pedaling to keep the bike going. It's possible that after the novelty wears off, we'll find there's just a limit to how fast e-mountain bikers even want to climb. It'll be interesting to see how fast they're actually climbing when they have full control of their bikes. I think it's going to be pretty fast. Usually having control of the hardware that you just purchased is what you want, and that's the argument DJI is making. At a private bike park, within the rules, climbing really fast can get you a lot of laps, and people should have the freedom to do it. But now that Pandora's box is open, it's highly unlikely this will stop at 1,000 watts, nominal or otherwise. And as moto creep, as it's sometimes called, becomes a real thing, mountain bikers can get grouped in with bad actors on bikes that are legally mopeds, yet identical in shape and form to this right here. Maybe you're not one for rules and you love the freedom to make your own judgment calls. I'm with you, but not everybody makes the right call. And I'm telling you that behind the scenes, there are places we barely have the right to go mountain biking, let alone e-mountain biking. So as a group, we need to apply self-imposed restraint and constructive social pressure right now before the many successors to the Amflow PL hit the market. So when you see someone wilding out, remember that they might be a newcomer with no idea what's at stake. Approach them not condescendingly, but constructively, like, Dude, I know that's fun, but here's why we don't do that on a multi-use path in a state park. For every incident, there's another argument for restrictions, not against just these bikes, but all e-bikes. With great power comes great responsibility, and increasingly, it looks like the power will be in our hands. Let's not ruin it for everybody. Thanks for riding with me today, and I'll see you next time. There's a first time for everything. The first time I lost control and hit a tree going uphill. And the thing is, I should have known better.